points are gained or points are lost, there will be much to discuss. For analysis regarding tonight's Winnipeg Jets game, here are Dave Minuk, Ezra Ginsburg, and your host, Drew Mindell. The Illegal Curve post-game show starts now.
Good evening, Winnipeg. Good evening, Manitoba. For all those joining us live this evening on our YouTube channel and all of our social media platforms, we say good evening, universe, and welcome to the Illegal Curve post-game show. Here to discuss the Winnipeg Jets victory. Certainly wasn't pretty. Certainly wasn't one you're going to put in a museum about how to play hockey. Certainly was one that was way more difficult than it ever should be, but the Jets do end up victorious on the right side of the ledger, 6-4 tonight against the Chicago Blackhawks. With Dave Minuk, with Ezra Ginsburg, I'm your host, Drew Mindell. Gentlemen, good to see you both on this Sunday evening. Hope you're having a pleasant day and that tonight's game, you were able to sort of keep your dinner down while watching that display of hockey by two defensively challenged teams, I would say, charitably.
Unbelievable. That second period, wow. If you like goals, I mean, that was the period for you. But, I mean, Chicago makes it interesting there and goes up by a goal, but scoring, what was it, 2 goals, and seemed like it was about 10 seconds there, but it wasn't quite 10 seconds. But, yeah, I mean, Chicago,
it was 23 seconds to be exact.
23 seconds. There you go. Like, you know, like good on Chicago for making this a hockey game, guys. But like, you know, watching that game, to me, after Jansen Harkins' second goal, that's when, you know, you could tell that the ice was totally tilted in the Jets' favor, right, Dave? Because Harkins almost completes the hat trick right after he scores his second goal of the game, right? So, I mean, just great for Harkins. That line looked really good, by the way, with Kopp and Svechnikov. And I'm sure, guys, you know, I'm sure, Drew, you're going to want to get into, you know, Kopp playing the third line center role because we're used to seeing him on the wing, of course, but we know that, you know, he's played center before in his career and he looked really good, right? Like good in the face-off circle, you know, chips in. What did he have? 2 points or 3 points tonight? I think he might have had 3 points. So
two
did he only have 2? Okay. I thought he had
3
3 assists, you know, correct. You know, forgive me. There were 6 goals that went in, including the Wheeler empty netter. Right. So, and I was also struggling with my kids, getting them to bed. I mean, you know, just as an aside, this daylight savings, like I realize that it's, you know, the kids' bedtime doesn't change, but like, it seems like everything is still screwed up from last week when the clocks, you know, went back. Anyways, I'm not going to, you know, get too much into that, but, you know, look, this was an ugly game. There's no, I mean, the Kurashev's goal was, you just can't let that in. I mean, Hellebuyck, we know that's his weak, you know, side. I mean, the blocker side, we've seen teams, you know, explode that blocker side before, but you have to stop that. So, I mean, that shouldn't be a 1-goal game. You know, the Jets should have comfortably, easily, you know, won that game, but, you know, the Hawks made it a little interesting. Wheeler's empty net, you know, sealed the deal, but I don't know what's happening with Dave M there, but you know, we'll continue on here. But yeah,
Ezzy, Kenny's water bottle. I think my TV's gone.
There's the problem. Dave was looking back to me. Yeah,
I was reacting.
Didn't know that
I didn't realize someone stole my TV.
Different location, right?
I thought you were signaling you wanted some mic time. Yeah,
nope.
Dave in a different location than normal. That explains the lack of a television and the lack of a fireplace behind him. But you know, that was it's a win, and the Jets needed to get the win. To lose that game would have been inexcusable. Wouldn't you once just like them to see them do things easy? Like, shouldn't the team?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, from our perspective, we don't give a damn. I mean, you know, we're going to talk about it regardless if it's easy or if it's not. But you're up 5-1 against the Chicago Blackhawks, a Chicago Blackhawks team that is
5-2.
Sorry, 5-2. You're up 5-2 against Chicago Blackhawks after 40 minutes. It just speaks to what the Winnipeg Jets are as a team, in that Chicago gets back into the game, and that Chicago, frankly, had numerous opportunities to tie the game before Wheeler's net goal.
Well, Hellebuyck made a 5-bell save on Taylor. Taylor Radish looks. I mean, we talked about it yesterday on the Saturday show. Radish is a guy who had over 100 points in the OHL. This is a guy that, you know, was you know, in the AHL for a few years with Syracuse, right, Dave? That's the Lightning affiliate. And so Radish is a good player. And Boris Kachuk is a pretty good player too. And Radish almost tied that game up. So you're right, Drew. I mean, the Jets not only, you know, let them back in it in the third period, that easily could have went to overtime.
Very much so, and that in of itself is inexcusable because look, we know the Jets aren't anything more than an average team, and yet they constantly are trying to sell this line that they're just gonna they're better than they are, or that they just need to get in there and then good things can happen. You can't succeed. The stat that Dennis said on the broadcast: 17 of the last 18 Jets games, they've given up 3 or more goals. I mean, that is an absurd statistic. That is, I mean, that's hard to do. Even the worst defensive team in this league probably hasn't been able to do that this year. I mean, it just speaks to what this Winnipeg Jets team is, and that's why, selling has to be the only option ahead of the trade deadline coming up in less than less than 18 hours from now. I mean, you just aren't good enough defensively to truly ever be considered anything other than 4 games and out, a delicious appetizer from the Colorado Avalanche. I mean, if you can't shut down
the game coming up on Tuesday, right? Like Vegas is you got to believe Vegas is going to have a much better effort than they did 5 days ago, right? And they've won their last 2 games against Florida and LA, right? And luckily Jack Eichel's still in the lineup, and they're going to have a bunch of players still out of the lineup. So, I mean, I'm not saying that the Jets are going to lose that game. If I was a betting man, I'd probably say the Jets are going to win that game. But what I'm saying is it's not going to be easy, and you're still going up against a team, like I said, that's going to have Eichel and Marchessault and William Karlsson, and like they have enough good players that you're still going to have to play well defensively to beat them. So tonight it wasn't good enough defensively. Offensively, I mean, they scored 5 goals, right? I mean, minus the empty netter, right? So offensively, like, we'll get into the goals. Ehlers' first goal was absolutely beautiful. Kyle Connor's goal on the power play, even though Fleury loses his was it glove or blocker, it was a beautiful shot. So there were some nice goals. We talked about Harkins pops in a couple, but yeah, defensively, like, it was just too loose, too many turnovers.
Exactly what the Jets are in a nutshell, right, Dave? I mean, it's just too loosey goosey, no attention to detail.
Hair in my mouth here. I don't know what's going on.
It's maybe your large beard that might be, or you might still have some of that Junior McChicken in your mouth in your beard from a couple nights ago.
Hey, take it easy, baby face. I know that you just shaved, but I still got the beard going.
You do that. You certainly do, Dave. I mean, this is just. I mean, we've seen this Jets game before this year. We've seen them win this game before. We've seen them lose this game more times than they've won. It's just, I mean, you are what you are at game 63, and that's what this Winnipeg Jets team is.
Yeah, that's the classic line. You are what your record says you are. And look, the Jets just haven't been able to lock it down, and they haven't looked like a team that can really just, I mean, you won, but how effective was that win, right? I mean, you got a Chicago team that's essentially selling. They still got some good pieces on the team, but it seems like they'll be probably one of the most active teams tomorrow in maybe trading away some of their assets. We'll see about that. Who knows how busy tomorrow will actually be, given the fact that it seems like everyone but the Jets have been doing things. And look, even the way today went, like we were all kind of focused on the morning skate, the morning availability, to see what was going to happen with the Jets, whether they were going to hold out Andrew Kopp, whether they were going to hold out Paul Stastny as asset management. And obviously Adam Lowry coming down and having to be put into COVID protocol changed the planning, perhaps, based on the fact that obviously they wouldn't have any cap relief from that. So, it does. I thought maybe they'd go 11-7. We know Ville Heinola did take the skate, so maybe they were still considering up until that moment to whether to pull someone. That could be an indication that they were contemplating some things and having conversations.
Maybe they should have gone 11-7. I mean, the whopping 4 minutes that Jeff Malott, Christian Vesalainen, Adam Brooks, and Dominic Toninato got. I mean, that's definitely reason to go with 12 forwards, right? Well, 4 minutes is a lot of ice time.
For sure. I mean, and it's funny because oftentimes Dave Lowry's talking about, when you're chasing a game, well, you really weren't chasing a game other than for, as you guys said, 23 seconds in that second period. I'm sorry, that's when you gave up the lead, but then, you it wasn't that far after that you came back. So, not using the fourth line, it's not a shocking thing based on the way this team has run the fourth line all season long. Mm-hmm. And, using having Villiers up with the big club. I mean, I just, other than him making NHL salary, it just doesn't make a lot of sense. The Moose were in action. He could have played the 2 games in Iowa with Manitoba this weekend. So both wins, but we'll talk about that after. And, it's just, look, it's nice that Jeff Malott got to make his NHL debut. That's a pretty cool story. They come off a 5-2 win last night in Iowa, and he gets told by Marty Johnston, you're not playing tomorrow's matinee, you're going to Chicago, which obviously a hop, skip, and a jump from Des Moines. And he gets to make his NHL debut, deserves it, given the fact that he has 18 goals for them. Yeah, exactly. For the Moose this season. He's been a really good soldier for Manitoba. He's been part of that core leadership group. So
I would just like to have seen him more, Dave.
Oh no, I agree.
I'm not taking anything away from it, but like in this game, and Drew's right. Like, we're not talking about the last 2 or 3 minutes. Nobody's saying that the fourth line should be out there in the last 2 or 3 minutes. It was a 5-2 game.
I know.
And I thought they had some jump. Like, Toninato has been a great soldier all year long. And, I thought Adam Brooks, like he was skating. Jeff Malott is having a killer year with the Moose. Right. So I'm not, look, I might be just going on a cold, hard rant. I might be, maybe it's, I've been spending too much time with Drew here. It's just like, I wanted to see him more. He barely
certainly didn't do
the second
anything
and third period.
They didn't do anything in the 40 minutes in the first 40 minutes that demanded that they be stapled to the bench. That's just, you're up 5-2 and you can't trust those guys. Well, it's not like the guys you played were any more defensively responsible than the guys you had stapled to the bench. It's just it's like an organizational edict that every head coach in this that coaches this team cannot play the fourth line no matter what. I remind you guys that Jansen Harkins was on the fourth line last game on Friday night, I guess, against Boston. Played 3 minutes, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, maybe 3.5. And look, he gets bumped up today and he scores 2 goals. So you can't tell me that the fourth line can't contribute. They can.
Exactly.
And if you're up 5-2 and you can't play them, what
are we doing here?
As someone just said in the chat, I think I put it up there. The Jets may as well just go 9 forwards the way they play the fourth line, and it's just it isn't. What was happening earlier in the game, right? On the broadcast, at least, they were talking about how long the shifts were, and it's like, oh, he took 1:30. He just took this, and I'm thinking to myself, yeah. And he's like, he's usually taking short shifts. I'm like, okay, but what would be better? Even shorter, like 45 seconds. Give it your all. Get the hell off the ice.
Yeah, and
I'm just saying. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. And you're right, Drew. I've always been a proponent and think Jansen. Some people don't agree with me. I think Jansen Harkins could be a more effective player. I think he's a cerebral player. He's got decent hands, decent shot. Not the best skater, but I think he could be a third line potentially. Very. Again, it all depends on how the Jets use their third line, but. I don't think he would be bad on that. And we saw, and he seemed in Svechnikov, they worked hard. That's the one thing with those guys. They don't necessarily have the same level of talent. Although people sometimes forget that Jansen Harkins was a second rounder back in 2015. But the truth is, even if they don't have the most quote talent, they're hard workers. Like I said, you won't see someone work harder off the ice than Jansen Harkins. At least I haven't. And like I said, I watched him with the Moose when everybody else was done, and he's there in the hallway stretching for the whole time we're doing post-game media availabilities. Mm-hmm. And he's just always focused on trying to get better. So anyways, this isn't going to be a soliloquy about Jansen Harkins, but it's just an opportunity.
Why not? He had a great game, Dave.
No, he did have a good
game.
Go
for it.
Let's get into it.
Okay, I'll just quickly say that. And that's the first time he's ever had, in his pro career, a multi-goal game. So he's not a big goal scorer. But we saw
he's a good hockey player there, and there's going to be a role for him on this Jets team next year, and that's what you're trying to say. He earned it for a second round pick. It wasn't a guy who came into the league at 19 or 20.
Right.
He did it the long route, if you want to call it that, Dave. So that's what you're trying to say. Regardless if it's third line, fourth line, whatever. Fourth line, that's the thing too. Again, we'll move on here. We'll get into the goals, but fourth line doesn't mean bad players. There's 4 forward lines on a hockey team, and you can look at other teams in the NHL that use their fourth lines more, whether it's the Islanders or, another team, Colorado. Obviously Tampa Bay, Colorado, those teams have a little bit more talent than most teams, but that's what we're saying. Harkins is a guy that can easily play, on whatever line you need him to play in your top 12.
And I would just quickly end with the idea that you lost Mason Appleton which was a big loss in that third line. And Harkins isn't as good a skater, and he's not as big, but he's probably a little bit smarter than Appleton. And so, no, in terms of just like his,
I know what you're saying.
His
Like his
understanding.
GPA. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And his
His
GPA is
LSAT
like,
score.
It's stellar. So the point is that, you know, you need, and you never really found that, right? You never really found that replacement all year long. It didn't seem. Now, obviously, there were issues and for that, you know, in part, but I just thought maybe an extended viewing of Harkins, not a game here, does something you don't like, and then not suddenly he's playing fourth line. And as you guys just said, 4 minutes. And Dave Lowry even said that today in his availability, talked about sending Vesalainen down. And he said, well, why, you know, and he said, well, you know, he's not going to do any developing playing 4 minutes a game. Okay. So that's fine. And I mean,
as if the coach isn't the one responsible for doling out the ice time.
Yeah. Now I will say, like, look, Harkins is a 2015 draft pick, and Vesalainen was a 2017. So there's a couple of years there. You're not trying to develop Harkins still, but I just think like it's all about. I mean, I used the word earlier, asset management. Well, the Jets have to be smarter in terms of their usage because right now they're not, and like you're seeing opportunities. Like again, defensively. So many instances tonight where I was watching the Jets and I'm like, they've got the puck, but it's not under control. And you're watching forwards fly the zone. And I'm like, how are they still doing this 63 games in? And it wasn't like it was 4-2 at that point. It was a tight game. And they're still trying to get that get behind everyone and get the breakaway pass. I'm like, okay, sure. Game 63, you need these points critically, but you should be flying the zone. Great idea, guys.
Let's get into the game recap. It's brought to you by Betway, the sports betting app that backs you to trust your sports instincts. Got a hunch on this week's sports? Opt into the Betway Parlay Club today to earn $10 in free bets. When you place 25 or more on sports multiples or bet builder bets with at least 3 selections, you'll receive $10 back in free bets. This offer is available every week. So head on over to Betway and bet your way. Must be 19 years or older to play. Please play responsibly. Winnipeg Jets open the scoring at the 9:14 mark of the first period. Nikolai Ehlers, he shows off that speed. Assist to Kyle Connor and Nate Schmidt. It really does start, though, with a great defensive play by Logan Stanley, I believe. No, pardon me. It was Nate Schmidt with the great defensive play in his own zone that negates a Blackhawks opportunity, and the Jets transition up the ice, and Nikolai Ehlers demonstrates why he should have taken that penalty shot with some speed on Friday night.
No, I like that you gave Schmidt the shutout there because he did make a nice play in the Jet zone, but this is all Nikolai Ehlers. And again, for the second game in a row, right, guys, we saw the Ehlers-Connor give and go. And that's why if these two guys are healthy for the rest of the season, I don't know if they get broken up. I mean, they might get broken up, at some point, but I think we would all be shocked if they get broken up anytime soon, right? So, I mean, this is Ehlers starts it off in the neutral zone with tons of speed, as you mentioned. Mike Johnson on the broadcast was talking about, how good he is with his zone entries because, Drew's talked about this a little bit this year. He backs everybody off with his speed and give Kyle Connor credit for, identifying like, let's get the puck back to Ehlers, right? And he obviously flies behind the net and, we see the rare wraparound goal. We used to talk about that, back in the day on TSN 1290. Steve Valiquette would always talk about how rare the wraparound goal is. But when you have that much speed, I mean, Marc-Andre Fleury, I mean, just he doesn't have time to laterally move, right? So, I mean, just a great individual effort, speed. And you're right, Drew. He definitely could have used that on the penalty shot the other night.
No question about it. 1-0 for the Jets after 20 minutes. Shots on goal 10-7 in the Jets' favor in what was a fairly routine first period. I would describe it as, Dave. Certainly wasn't any indicator that it was going to be a 10-goal night after it was 1-0 after 20 minutes.
No, it started to get a little bit sloggy at that point, Drew. I mean, you're kind of sitting there going, okay, well, this is painful. Like seriously, like what are we watching? And we should mention Kyle Connor, of course, hit a new career high when he assisted on Nikolai Ehlers' goal. Nikolai Ehlers he's been on a roll since he returned from injury, and maybe the Jets' fortunes would have been different had he not missed so many games, courtesy of that knee-on-knee from Dmitry Orlov back in, December 17th. So, I mean, just a dynamic player in Nikolai Ehlers. 18 goals on the season for him. He's just such an effective player, and you saw that, right? I mean, I was trying to think. I don't ever remember Nikolai Ehlers scoring a wraparound goal. He's had 1 or 2 in his career, and he scored, I think, around 160 goals in the NHL. But how many goals do you remember from Nikolai Ehlers that have ever been wraparounds? I don't. I just.
Not many.
It's a tough goal to. It's a tough way to score nowadays. I mean, you don't see them nearly as often as you see a lot of the other goals. And there was just. I mean, look, Marc-Andre Fleury, knows what's happening here. He can see that Ehlers' intention is for the wraparound. It can't get across. He's just. I mean, which tells you how fast Nikolai Ehlers is when the goalie knows what you're trying to do, and you can still successfully do it.
Yeah, and before we should mention the hot lap for Jeff Malott before the game began, and that's kind of cool for his family to be there. They were in, he told Dennis during the broadcast, during the first intermission, that he was able to, his parents were in Florida with his sister, and so they were able to get down to Chicago and see his game. So, I mean, it's like I said, it's a remarkable thing. 4 years at Cornell, last 2 seasons with the Moose, and then his opportunity to get a recall. And I, like I said, I tweeted this, and it's the truth. I can tell you right now, every single guy on that Moose team, coaching staff, players, are all super excited for them, because that's just, if you watch the bench, when you see these guys like hit a milestone, when Nelson Nogier scores, given the fact that he's a veteran guy, he's sat a lot of games because they're playing the prospects. He scored the game-winning goal playing as a forward one game. The bench erupts. These guys just love. Like, I've never seen a team. Last year's team was really good, and this year's team is a kind of a continuation of that. And so, like I said, and it's the truth. You can just know, you'll know that all of these guys are just ecstatic for the opportunity. They all feel like they're part of it's them. They're getting that opportunity as well. So that was kind of neat to see, and just to watch the skate. I mean, the hair was a little questionable, but and then the truth was that, he didn't, unfortunately for him, he didn't get to play a lot, but it's still pretty cool that for him that against an original 6 team classic arena like the United Center. So a pretty good way to make your NHL debut, even if he didn't play a lot of minutes.
Yes, had 3 hits on the game. Also took his first ever penalty in the NHL as well. So certainly,
and they scored.
Forget about that one.
So
yeah, they scored on that one. That was the one. That was the one early in the third period that made it 5-3 at that point in time. So,
Jeff Malott will never play again in the NHL.
That's a great story. Undrafted. I mean, Dave's been talking about Jeff Malott all year long. I mean, how can you not root for this guy? It's awesome.
It is. The Blackhawks come out like a house on fire in the second period. They scored 2 goals 23 seconds apart. The first, Jonathan Toews from Taylor Radish and Dominic Kubalik. The second from Dylan Strome from Patrick Kane.
Kubalik on the Jets?
He's not on the Jets yet, but we'll see if he will be by 2 o'clock Central Time.
I don't get that one, but okay, that's an aside.
Yeah, that's an aside. I do not expect that to happen, but who knows? Stranger things have happened. That was our buddy, who was Ben Pope of the Chicago Sun-Times, reporting that the Jets had interest, at least in Dominic Kubalik, and we're talking to the Blackhawks about it. In any event, it was 2-1 Chicago, a minute and 36 seconds into the first period. The Toews goal comes when, stop me if you've heard this one before, Jets defenseman doesn't tie up the guy's stick in front. This one,
but there was a collision too, right? Like Dylan and Pionk collide.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like, it seemed like, those guys were both just not able to really, get themselves not only in position, but really kind of just identify how to break up that play, right? Because you had Dylan. No, it was Pionk that was to take Toews. Pionk he just doesn't get to him in time. So it's a pretty nice play, a nice tip.
Nice tip. The next goal is just a comedy of errors. I mean, Nate Schmidt, Jets win the draw. It's a defensive zone faceoff. The Jets win the draw. They win it clean to Nate Schmidt, and for the life of me, I don't know what he was doing. He had no pressure on him. It's not like there was a strong forecheck coming at him. He just gives the puck away and trying to rifle it up the boards. Everything about it was odd and somewhat inexplicable. I mean, made worse, of course, by the Jets' defensive zone coverage, which was abysmal. And look, the Blackhawks are a pretty terrible team, but Alex DeBrincat, Patrick Kane, and Dylan Strome can still play hockey. And you don't want to give him time, and you don't want to give him space, and and the Jets gave him both. And it's no surprise the puck ended up behind the net.
Yeah, and you just described it really well, and that's the reason why. I mean, when DeBrincat, it was DeBrincat, I believe, that picked that puck off the rim, the clearing attempt by Schmidt. Nobody was there on the Jets, to your point, right? So you're just putting the puck up there, and just nobody's there to take it. So DeBrincat says, "Okay, thank you very much," and he passes it to Strome, and Strome gives it to Kane. Kane gives it back to Strome. I mean, it was just, and the thing is, Kopp won the faceoff. We talked about that. Kopp was really good in the faceoff circle. I'd have to check. I believe he finished close to 60%, but I'd have
exactly
to check.
60%.
There you go.
9 face-off wins, 6
Yeah.
face-off losses.
Yeah, so he was 60%. So he wins the faceoff. Jets have possession. They were just scored on. So you're thinking, okay, everybody starts, getting ready to go up the ice. And then, yeah, it was a bad clear. I mean, we can't harp on Schmidt here. It was a bad clearing attempt, picked off by DeBrincat. And like you said, Drew, the three, Strome, maybe not so much, but DeBrincat and Kane are two of the guys that you don't want to be in a 3-on-1 situation. So obviously the Jets were reeling at that point, but luckily, they tied the game up shortly after.
Yeah, they tied it up shortly after, Dave M. And it's Jansen Harkins. We've talked about him a lot on the post game so far. It's his 6th of the year, assist to Dylan DeMello and Andrew Kopp. And he's really just sort of flying in the high slot and gets his stick on the Dylan DeMello point shot, a nifty tip. But, he goes to the dirty areas. He goes to the difficult areas. He goes to the high danger zone and danger bay for the Chicago Blackhawks. If you want to name an old CBC Canadian drama, it's 2-2 at that point in time.
Yeah, there's no question about it. And sorry, Drew, you made me start thinking about becoming a marine biologist after the Danger Bay reference. I love that show. Dr. Grant, right? Wasn't it Dr. Grant?
You would know it better than sure. I would.
I honestly, I watched that show. It made me want to be a marine biologist. Then
I have a confession. I watched Nature of Things last night.
Really? David Suzuki?
Were you high? Don't answer that. And Dave, marine biologist Costanza, did you pull out the golf ball from the whale?
The very ball. Anyways, so no, I mean, look, that's what we've talked about. Jansen Harkins given it a bit of an elevated role. We've seen these flashes from him, and that's what he's striving to gain. It happened to him in the AHL where he had to go down to the ECHL, and then he kind of got it. It clicked for him, and he had 31 points in 31 games for the Moose, and then he got called up to the NHL. And we haven't really necessarily seen the Beachcombers. I didn't really watch it, but it had good music if I remember correctly. But anyways, sorry.
Raccoons.
Yeah, I like raccoons too.
Shout out to Raccoon Carney.
Anyways,
it sort of looks like Cyril Sneer now that you mention it from the Raccoons.
Listen, Scrooge. So anywho, so the point is that Harkins has good hands, and he's a smart player. Like I said, he's cerebral. So when he sees that opportunity, I mean, it was a nice tip up, and I mean, it's kind of funny. I was surprised he actually already has 6 goals on the season, right? I mean, it's not a huge number, but I mean, he hasn't had a huge amount of ice time.
Double digits with playing 3 minutes a game.
Well, that's what I mean. So, like, given his usage to have, he had 6. Obviously, we know he had 7, and he almost had 8 and 9. I mean, he could have won some money, some people some money today. But no, I mean, that's the kind of stuff you see with him. Is that, like I said, he's a smart player. He knows what he needs to do, and it's like anything. You give these guys like Svechnikov, right? Svechnikov got that opportunity to be with on the second line, felt that confidence that the team had in him, and it elevates his play. And I think that's what these guys want to do, right? For their players, is that you need to put them in a position to have success and then keep them there. And you can't remove them the moment they have a mistake happens or a goal against them happens. And then you have to see what you've got in these players.
And I was going to throw in there, Dave, too, like Andrew Kopp, we're not sure if he's going to be traded. I mean, some people think it's a foregone conclusion. If he was going to be traded, I think, you would wonder why the Jets didn't sit him out. Same thing goes for Stastny. I mean, we'll get into that later, but I think, if Lowry, misses a few more games and Kopp is still a member of the Jets, do you not keep that line together? Because they look really good.
Yeah, you would absolutely would. I mean, there's nobody else that's coming up necessarily to displace any of those players right now. They looked great. I mean, they looked great on the Jets' 4th goal of the game. Pardon me, the Jets' 3rd goal of the game. Another one from Jansen Harkins. A beauty pass by Andrew Kopp and Evgeny Svechnikov getting the secondary assist on it. And it starts with, a good defensive play by Svechnikov. A good defensive play, I think, actually by Dylan DeMello, if I'm not mistaken. Who gives it to Svechnikov, who gives it to Kopp, and it ends up on Harkins' stick with a beauty cross ice pass that Harkins just goes hard to the net on. Nothing pretty, but effective.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And we talked about it right after the go ahead goal, Harkins' second goal. He almost had a chance to complete the hat trick there. So we often talk about Andrew Kopp and his versatility and everything like that. He's just a good hockey player. Like this is a beautiful pass by Andrew Kopp. And, going back to what we talked about before, Drew, I mean, Chicago just falls asleep. Like, give Harkins credit, but like, why isn't anybody picking up Jansen Harkins there? Harkins just kind of slips in behind everybody, and it's a tape-to-tape pass. So again, beautiful finish by Harkins, but Kopp with just an A+ pass there.
Yeah, an A+ pass, exactly right. I mean, they fall asleep because they're not a very good hockey team, and you got to take advantage of a not a very good hockey team, and that's what the Jets did. At least, to that point in the second period, they came back strong after the Blackhawks had taken that lead, and then the Jets kept it going. And it's Kyle Connor, his 39th of the year. Mark Scheifele gets his 31st assist, and Blake Wheeler gets his 37th assist. It's a power play goal, and Morrissey, if Marc-Andre Fleury had actually made the save without his glove on, his hand would have been broken on that one. I mean, and Fleury's to blame on this one. You go back and you watch the replay, Blake Wheeler is establishing position right sort of next to the blue paint of Marc-Andre Fleury, and Fleury goes to like push Wheeler out of the way. Why he's doing that and not a defenseman, I couldn't quite tell you, but he drops his glove, and then it's just chaos at that point in time for the Chicago Blackhawks. And Kyle Connor, it was a question, are the Jets going to get the seam pass through? And they did. And then Morrissey, at that point in time, Kyle Connor without a goalie against a goalie without a glove on is not a fair competition.
And I don't know why the Hawks, like, watching that live, like, the Hawks were complaining. I'm not sure. They thought it was maybe goalie interference. Like, I'm with you, Drew. I mean, like, it's not like someone else, like, it was Fleury, it was responsible for losing his glove there, trying to go after Wheeler in front of the net. But again, Connor is just way too wide open here. Like, watch the replay. Like, obviously they're going to go. Connor's the guy, like, going into this game, the pre-scout, like, Kyle Connor's the Jets' best goal scorer. You have to look out for Connor and Ehlers and Dubois and Scheifele and other players. But, on the power play specifically, they're going to be looking for Connor. So I have no idea why he was that wide open, because to me, I mean, the Hawks were way too collapsed to the right of Fleury there. So yeah, I mean, they were moving the puck really nicely on that power play, and just a beautiful shot by Connor. But again, just horrible penalty killing by the Hawks.
Yeah, no question.
Well, and just to quickly jump in there, Drew, I mean,
Kyle
Connor had to be like licking his lips at the prospect. I mean, he's like, in his mind, he was like, okay, here comes my 39th goal. I mean, I was going to add to your end of comment, which was, you said, Kyle Connor with that opportunity. Kyle Connor with a goaltender who has his glove is a pretty good chance to score. With Marc-Andre Fleury without a glove, I mean, it's almost a foregone conclusion. So, look, 39 goals for Kyle Connor, sets his new career high. I mean, he would have had 40. Obviously, had the season not been shortened due to COVID 2 years ago, but I mean, what more can you say about this player, right?
I think he's going to score 50, Dave. I'm with
you.
I
do too.
I'm on team 50. Kyle Connor's going to get 50.
And I've been on team 50 for at least like 15 goals ago. Like I thought he's been on.
Let's get Keith Tkachuk in Winnipeg for that 50th goal.
Yeah, but it's interesting, right? Because for a while he was not well below, but he was below the line. Now he's above it. And so look, we know he's going to get to 40. That's a foregone conclusion, but I mean, 50 is not unrealistic for him. And so look, that goal is classic.
50 is the new 40.
It is true. So I just think like he is just continuing to show you what. And it was just funny because like Dennis, like, yeah, you're practicing that. He's like, during the intermission, it's like, well, it's what I do. I mean, Kyle Connor he's never going to be an exciting interview. That's just what you get with Kyle Connor. But he's like, yeah, that's what I practice all the time. And it's like, okay, all right, yeah. But anywho, the point is that
I wonder if Kyle Connor surfs, because he has that kind of like disposition of like just a laid back like California surfer, right?
Possible. We'll have to ask him. But anywho,
either of you guys ever been surfing?
No, I've wakeboarded.
Short, fat, awkward guys don't really work on surfboards, Drew. So,
I don't know. You might have a low center of gravity going your way, Ezzy. That might be beneficial. Right in that. Make sure you got that belly going on there. Just hang on tight.
I'm more of the like the dad that's getting buried by his kids in the sand. That's more of my style.
I appreciate that. The Jets wrap up the scoring in the second period. Josh Morrissey, his 9th of the year. That's a career high for the Jets defenseman. Assist to Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor. And Morrissey stepped into this one big time as the Blackhawks, again, have some woeful end of period defense.
So based on this goal going in. It was towards the end of the second period, and
24 seconds left.
Yeah, and you're right, Drew. He there was no question he was putting that in. Nice goal by Josh Morrissey. He's really reestablished, his offensive game and his just his all around game, but for sure his offensive game. But how many people, and I put this on Twitter, how many people, when the Jets took a 5-2 lead going into the end of the second period, actually thought that was going to end up being the game-winning goal? Like, there's no chance that anyone.
I thought we were going to have like a 7-2 final.
Yeah, honestly, just
people who've watched the Jets probably, watched the Jets consistently this year probably thought it.
That's true, I guess. But I mean, like I said, it's a good play by Josh Morrissey. It's a nice pass by Mark Scheifele, and you could see that the Jets felt good about the game, and that's why it was curious. And I don't have the breakdowns as you get into the third period, looking at it right now, but in terms of the usage, but it is questionable why they wouldn't have. Obviously, Alex was still scared. He thought that the game wasn't out of reach, but 3 goals generally is usually. I mean, they say the 2-goal lead is the worst lead in hockey, but maybe with the Winnipeg Jets in 2021-22, the 3-goal or 4-goal lead is the worst lead to have in hockey, as we remind everyone from that Montreal game. So. Anyways,
I might be wrong here, but Morrissey was coming off of the bench there, right?
Yeah. He had a head of speed behind him on that shot.
It was like shot out like a cannon there. So, I mean, after that point, I'm with you. I mean, like the Hawks, first off, were hemmed in their zone for the majority of that period. Like it was all Jets. And you got the feeling that, that a 5th goal might come late in the period. And you're right. Josh Morrissey's having a great bounce back overall season, but specifically offensively. But I mean, just too many Hawks standing around and just really passive defensive coverage. Like, and the thing is, like, if you're the Hawks, all you're playing for now is jobs for next year, trying to impress the coach and trying to play the role of spoiler. So, I mean, up until, the Harkins tied the game, I mean, obviously they were leading, but like you're right in that game. The first period, we talked about it, like, even though the Jets controlled a lot of the play, they only had the 1 goal, right? So, I mean, the Jets were I'll give them credit, even though, I'm not that impressed and people were getting on me on Twitter, even though I deleted the tweet because I was getting annoyed with the replies. But I mean, somebody I worked with was saying I was getting roasted. So maybe I'm still getting roasted on Twitter, but I mean, like I'm happy the Jets won this game, but like the Hawks were giving the Jets a lot of ice there in their own zone. Right. So, I mean, I just thought that they just looked awful in their own zone. And that's all I was saying. I mean, I wasn't saying that the Jets weren't playing well. I was just saying that the Hawks were making it pretty easy for them.
They certainly were. The Blackhawks make it close in the third period. They get the power play goal. Taylor Radish, his first as a member of the Blackhawks, the second point of the game, assist to Patrick Kane and Dylan Strome. That comes on the power play at 3:25. That was the one we mentioned earlier with Jeff Malott in the box. And, you need to play as clean a period in the third period as you can. And when you give up you take an early penalty in the period, it was coming off a goal-mouth scramble where, the Jets were sort of desperately trying to keep the Blackhawks from banging the puck into the net. The Jets aren't very good at playing a clean period and making things easy on themselves. And you certainly saw that there. And, again, you give a team a power play, even a team like the Hawks who are struggling, they have enough, big name talent that they can do good things. And they did a good thing there to make it 5-3 at that point in time. And then, sort of glossing over that one, we get to the goal that really made it interesting, 5-4. That coming at the 13-minute mark. So with 7 minutes to go in the third period, it's Philip Kurashev, a player that I admittedly am not that familiar with. His 5th of the year, assist to Sam Lafferty and Seth Jones. Connor Hellebuyck has to have this one. You can't get beat short side, in that circumstance, because all that's doing is giving your opposition even more life at that point.
Yeah, and Connor Hellebuyck has been criticized a lot as of late. You mentioned that stat. The amount of games where the Jets have given up 3 or more goals is quite shocking, actually. And so Hellebuyck, it doesn't obviously bear, all of that. I mean, team defense plays a little bit into that, right? But this is a goal where you just didn't expect that to go in. Like Kurashev, give him credit. That's a sneaky little play. He identified that little space, between the post and the pads and the blocker there. So, I mean, that's one that Hellebuyck is definitely going to be thinking about probably at least until the next game.
Certainly.
No, it was a quick question, Drew, because I mean, obviously I watched it while the game was ongoing, but did it look like it deflected off of Dylan DeMello's stick?
I didn't see that.
Because I mean, it wasn't a good goal.
But I thought DeMello came.
Because his stick was out, and I wasn't certain if it made any contact, and they didn't really show the replay more than the one time. So I really didn't see anything, but I didn't see
anything that would indicate that, Dave. I mean, it's possible.
Yeah.
I mean, I think DeMello
Hellebuyck didn't react, for the record, like it had gone off. Like you can tell when a goalie knows it went off direction. When it changes direction, and he wants to look at it.
And they hate it.
Yeah, and you can see they look at the defenseman, they make a comment. Yeah. So he didn't react like that. So I just wasn't certain based on that replay. I just watched it. Maybe some people in the chat can give us their thoughts as to whether they thought it looked like it. I agree with you. If it didn't get deflected, then it's a really bad goal. I mean, deflected goals. I mean, look at Harkins, right? Goaltender. It's hard on a goaltender.
Lawrence is saying that on the broadcast they mentioned that it might have been deflected.
Okay, so there you go. I mean, like,
it wasn't. I don't think it was enough of a deflection.
Where did the puck defect from, Lawrence? I don't understand. Did it become a Canadian
coming from
puck?
Winnipeg to Chicago?
Yeah, defected from Rockford. It was playing in the AHL. It came to the NHL instead. Whatever it was, you can't let that goal in. I mean, now to Connor Hellebuyck's credit, it should have been a tie game when the Blackhawks pulled the goalie, when they pulled Marc-Andre Fleury with 2 minutes to go or so. Connor Hellebuyck made a number of grade A saves that allowed the Jets to keep it the 1-goal lead before Blake Wheeler was able to put it into the empty net. So, Hellebuyck taketh giveth away, and then he also taketh back for the Winnipeg Jets in tonight's contest. But it's certainly, look, it's 2 points, and it's a huge 2 points for the Winnipeg Jets. They move, I believe, now within 4, if I'm not mistaken, of the final playoff spots. I guess Dallas won tonight, though, so I have to figure out. I'll tell you what.
Dallas is now 3 points ahead of the Jets with 2 games in hand.
Okay.
And then the Golden Knights are up 4.
Yeah.
But the Jets have a game in hand.
The Jets have a game in hand on the Golden Knights.
Right.
So tomorrow
if the Jets beat Vegas on Tuesday. No, hold on. Vegas plays on Monday, though, don't they?
Vegas plays Minnesota tomorrow. So the Jets will have 2 games in hand on Vegas entering Tuesday night's contest. But depending on the results of tomorrow night between Vegas and Minnesota, a Jets victory on Tuesday night conceivably could put them within 2 points of Vegas. Does that mean they're within
2 games in hand?
With 2 games in hand with 2 games in hand on Vegas, but depending on what Dallas does, because I believe they're next in action on Tuesday as well, because they played Saturday, Sunday. They beat Washington today in regulation after losing to the Islanders, and actually Vancouver is also in action tonight, second half of a back-to-back for them after they lost to Calgary last night. They have Buffalo at home tonight, so Vancouver, right now the Jets are ahead of Vancouver, but the Canucks could leapfrog the Jets depending on their result later tonight. So as you can see, things quickly changing all throughout the Western Conference, but I don't think
Dallas plays Edmonton at home on Tuesday, Drew.
There you go. So you can't overstate. I think one thing is evident. Tuesday's game between the Jets and the Vegas Golden Knights is going to be another absolutely massive contest in what is a massive week for the Winnipeg Jets, because this is the soft spot of the schedule right now.
Well, and especially if Vegas loses on Monday, right? Because then you're within 2 points with 2 games in hand. So you're 100% right.
That's right. And tonight you have Chicago, then you have Vegas on Tuesday, and Vegas has won 2 in a row, but they haven't been playing great hockey by any stretch. Then you got Thursday, Friday, Ottawa, Columbus, and then next Sunday, Arizona. So I mean, these are not playoff teams. Vegas is right now, just barely. But all these other teams you're playing against are not playoff teams. So if the Jets want to go on some sort of magical mystery tour of a run, it has to be this week, because we know that the latter half of April is an absolute murderer's row for this Winnipeg Jets. Let's go to break. When we come back, we'll look at some of the moves from around the NHL earlier today. An already very busy day as it pertains to the trade deadline. Dave will undoubtedly have a Moose Minute for us, as he's going to have a Tough Duck winner. Smash the like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel, subscribe to the podcast. Don't go anywhere. Much more of the Illegal Curve Hockey Show, the Illegal Curve Post-Game Show coming up live on our YouTube channel and all of our social media platforms.
Jerry Seinfeld, Chris Rock, Jon Stewart, Dennis Miller, Brad Garrett, the biggest acts and all the up-and-comers. They've all made their mark at Rumors Comedy Club, North America's longest-running independent comedy club. Rumors has kept Winnipeg laughing for over 25 years. When was the last time you laughed out loud? Make it a great night out with friends or book your office or birthday party, even a fundraising event at Rumors. Get all the details and dates on upcoming shows at rumorscomedyclub.com.
He winds up. Oh, looks like Ezzy took that one right in the choppers.
A blistering fast puck hurts like HE double hockey sticks. That's why I let the pros at Linden Market Dental Center turn my yow into
wow.
Get your brilliant smile back with state-of-the-art restorative and cosmetic dentistry from real pros.
And remember, always wear a mouth guard.
Now that's solid on ice advice. Learn more at lindenmarketdentalcenter.com. Creating smiles for life.
Whoa, Ezzy, everything okay? You look stressed.
Of course I'm stressed. We're moving, the house is upside down, the kids failed miserably at packing the fine china, and my life is in chaos. Chaos!
Yes, that does sound like a problem.
What am I going to do?
Ezzy, relax. Rolly's Transfer Moving and Storage is the answer. With 60 years of experience in moving Manitobans and a track record of exemplary customer service, one call to Rolly's and your stress is gone. No job is too big or too small. Just visit Rollies.com and they will take it from there.
Thanks, Dave, and thank you, Rolly's Transfer Moving and Storage, online at Rollies.com.
Hey boys, finding parking on game day shouldn't take longer than the Minute Minute.
It shouldn't take longer than 1 minute?
Yeah, less than a minute? I spend at least 20 driving around to find street parking, or if I'm in a rush to the game, I'll shovel out 20 at a parkade.
You're both doing it wrong. There's this app called Grid Park. It lets you find and pre-book your parking spot on game days, and you can reserve your spot up to 1 month in advance. And guess how much you'll pay?
Tell me, Dave. You know I love a deal.
Ezzy, $5.
Come on, $5?
Yeah, and it's just 2 blocks from the arena.
The Grid Park app?
Yep, spelled GRYD Park. And you know what else?
There's more?
Our listeners get their first park free with the code FIRSTPARK.
Wow, so they just download the Grid Park app and pre-book their next game day spot for free?
Yeah, you got it, Ez. Promo code FIRSTPARK. Only on the Grid Park app.
Hi, it's Drew from Illegal Curve here. Selling your home can be stressful, but it wasn't for me. Thanks to my friends at Zappia Group Realty, they made the process so easy. My home sold within 48 hours and with multiple offers. Zappia Group Realty took care of everything with their exquisite customer service and attention to detail. If you want to sell your home for more in less time, get started by talking to Frank and Mauro Zappia of Zappia Group Realty. Online at zappiagroup.com.
For 3 generations and over 80 years, Tough Duck has been making apparel that works and plays as hard as the people who wear it. From jackets to work boots and everything in between, Tough Duck's clothing can handle the harshest environments, even the Illegal Curve hockey show. Work to live, live to play. Visit toughduck.com. 9:30 Sunday night. Welcome back to the Illegal Curve post-game show. Drew Mandel, Dave Manouk, Ezra Ginsburg with you.
Do you put any aftershave on, Drew?
No, I don't use aftershave.
I don't either, but I mean, I just thought you might because, you had a little bit of a beard going there and then you shaved it all off. So
I did. Yeah, no, I have naturally smooth skin and naturally I'm just got this baby face. I don't need any aftershave or anything like that. I'm just naturally got this glow of a young, 20.
Eat your heart out, Macaulay Culkin.
That's exactly. Home Alone. That's me in a nutshell. In any event, the Jets victorious tonight, 6-4. Must win. They did get the win. Trade deadline coming up tomorrow. Coverage all day on illegalcurve.com, depending on what the Winnipeg Jets do. So you can be sure to keep it locked there for all the latest news regarding the Winnipeg Jets and the Manitoba Moose. Let's go through some of the moves from around the NHL today. Certainly a very busy day as everybody gets ahead of the deadline tomorrow. The big one didn't happen today. It happened yesterday. There's two very big ones. Hampus Lindholm going from Anaheim to the Boston Bruins. The Ducks get a first-round pick, a second-round pick, another second-round pick, and a couple of defensemen. The Bruins obviously get Lindholm, and then they sign him to an 8-year contract extension earlier today. $6.25 million is the AAV for Hampus Lindholm.
A lot of cake.
Going forward. A lot of cake, certainly, but I guess if you're gonna, it's not a rental, I guess, at that point in time. If you sign him that quickly and you think he's gonna, fit in on that defense, I mean, it does make sense. That defense looks a lot better today. Lindholm, I know, isn't as good as he once was and isn't as well regarded as he once was, particularly by some of the folks in the analytics community. But I think on a good Bruins team, a defensively responsible Bruins team, and not having to necessarily play top line minutes or top pairing minutes, I think he'll look perfectly fine there. I think eventually, as he.
Yeah, and I agree. And we talked to Frank Saravalli about Lindholm yesterday, and apparently Boston really wanted Ben Sherratt as well, right? And you heard St. Louis wanted Sherratt. We obviously know where Sherratt went to Florida, but I mean, look, it makes a lot of sense for Boston to make that move, as you said, because I mean, look, they've been trying to replace Torrey Krug, right? Like, to me, that I mean, it's not the exact same player, but he kind of fills that similar role. Lindholm, yeah, his stats might not be the best, but he's a really good defenseman in my mind. Can play top four on any team as far as I'm concerned. Maybe not Colorado, but yeah. So I like that move for Boston. I don't know if Boston gets out of the first round, but I still like that move.
I like it, and especially because it's now it sets them up for future as well. It's not just for this year. It's not that you pay a king's ransom.
How old is he? 26, 27, something like that.
Something like that, probably. I don't exactly know, but he's not. You're going to get some good mileage out of that, at least for the first few years of that contract, and whatever happens after that point in time. Dave, the Florida Panthers, they get Claude Giroux. We talked about that with Frank Saravalli on yesterday's Illegal Curve Hockey Show. Basically, Giroux told the Flyers, "I'm only going to Florida," by the sounds of it, and so the deal eventually got done. Owen Tippett, as no surprise, he's the big name going back to Philadelphia, trying to establish himself as a NHL regular, and a first-round pick in 2024 and a third-round pick in 2023 as the Panthers load up to make a run. Boy, that East is going to be an absolute beast in the playoffs.
Well, and technically Florida's, I don't know their exact cap number, but with Ekblad gone until the playoffs,
yeah, I
mean, they could have a Kucherov type situation where in theory they could add an Andrew Kopp. I'm not saying they're going to, but you could see them go aggressively. Why not? If you appear to be going for it and you want to be able to compete, you may as well just swing for the fences a little bit and see what you can do here with the Panthers, because we know they have some nice pieces. But yeah, I mean, look, our friend Anthony Sanfilippo from Crossing Broad, who covers the Flyers, he was talking about Owen Tippett, who made his Flyers debut today. Former Winnipeg Jets, Kevin Hayes, he had the 2 goals in the win. But it sounded like Tippett had a good game for Philadelphia. So, I mean, I'm sure they're very happy. Claude Giroux put them in a bit of a tough situation, essentially, when a team knows that he's only going to one team.
Yeah.
I mean, what kind of negotiation can you have? We're going to give you this. Well, we want more. Okay, then go get it from. Oh wait, there's nobody else to get it from because he won't go anywhere.
Well, and the teams, general managers around the league knew that, right, Dave? Like, it's a small world. They end up figuring out that he doesn't really want to go to Colorado. I don't really know why.
Well, and the reality also,
you don't want to win a Stanley Cup.
Family, who knows?
Yeah, perhaps, but I mean, like, the reality is like,
I mean, I don't know what his reasons are.
Because remember, if he goes and lives in Sunrise, I mean, how it's not difficult to get down.
Don't say that state tax. Don't talk about that state tax. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I'm just saying from a travel perspective to get to Philadelphia. If it's
it's legal in Colorado, Dave.
It's cannabis.
I don't know.
I think you were going with cannabis is what the answer was there, Ezzy.
Okay.
But it's legal in most places now, most states, not federally, but in most states.
Sorry, I booked a trip to Denver. I don't know why I brought that up.
So anyways, I mean, look, it's an interesting move. I just think I like the fact that he was able to play his 1,000th game. That's his final game in a Philadelphia Flyers uniform. I thought that was kind of a nice way for him to conclude his career there, but I don't think he put them in the best position to at least create a little bit of leverage between Florida, between Colorado, get them into a bit of a bidding war, and then ultimately they would have probably honored his request anyways. So, I mean, how that gets out, I mean, look, the Flyers certainly wouldn't do that because they would lose any leverage they had from that getting up from them. So, I mean, you wonder if the Flyers, if Giroux's agent leaks that information and then it gets out to the press, and then obviously once it's out there, it's gone. And so, tough position for Florida to be in, for Philadelphia to be in, but it seemed like that people seem to be happy with the return, especially given that information.
The number of different moves today. Let's go through them as quickly.
What is this, the trade deadline show?
Well, you might as well get over them now. You might as well do it right now.
There's not a lot of players left, like aside from Andrew Kopp. How many guys are left?
Kopp, Kopp might be one of the bigger names.
Jacob Chikrin. I mean, Jacob Chikrin's been out there for a while.
Are you telling me that the embarrassing lack of coverage of the Jets is actually going to be rectified because TSN and Sportsnet are actually going to have to cover them tomorrow? Is that what you're telling me?
Maybe for a couple minutes.
Because the last video on the Jets on TSN was from 2 or 3 days ago. I mean, it's just the coverage of the Winnipeg Jets, other than on illegalcurve.com and the periodicals, is embarrassing.
And Kenny and Rennie.
No, I know. I'm saying like
and Winnipeg Sports Talk.
I don't really have to like people know who covers.
I know. Dave's saying that the national coverage of the Jets.
I know.
But you know what the crazy thing is? I'm going a bit of rant here, but like you literally have the interviews. I mean, you just need to get someone to clip it. Like the Chevy interview wasn't on TSN's website for how many days, or took him like a day. It's like, how do you not have that up instantly? I mean, he didn't say anything, but who cares? And it's like there's so Dennis does a pregame with Mike Johnson or intermission, Craig Button. They don't put it up on their website. It's insane.
Feel better about yourself?
Well, it's just whatever. Not very good.
It looks like Hustler's breaking trades in the chat room. Actually, Hustler saying Scott Wedgwood just got traded to Dallas. So you can file
Wedgewall.
Yeah, well, I called him, because that's what the Coyotes called him Wedgewall once in a tweet. And I said, under no circumstances has anyone ever confused Scott Wedgwood with Wedgewall. And then he went on like a 3-0-0 run where he gave up one goal in 3 games total, something like that.
And we know why that makes a lot of sense, right? Like Anton Hudobin, he's done. You know, Ben Bishop retired.
They need somebody behind Ottinger.
Adam Scheel has been the backup. If you're a University of North Dakota fan, saw him play a couple.
Or if you like Shield
department
Sports.
Store, yeah.
There you go. Sports. Is that him?
Yeah,
that's his family. Awesome.
Yeah,
Mazel tov.
The Alberta, the North Dakota equivalent of the Comries in Alberta.
Yeah,
there you go. Yeah, so Adam Scheel's been the backup to Jake Ottinger's been the taken over the number 1 role, which I don't think a lot of people thought was going to happen, even though he's a really talented goalie. So obviously Wedgwood, they bring in the veteran back.
Does that mean they can trade Holtby now?
We'll see.
I believe he's still injured.
I think he played.
No, it was Kudobin. It was Kudobin who was done for the season.
Yeah, Holtby played today in Washington, if I'm not mistaken.
There you go.
For Dallas. Going back to that was his first game back in Washington since he left the Capitals organization.
What do I know?
Anyways, the Maple Leafs acquire Mark Giordano for
Stop the presses. Mark Giordano, Toronto. They made a trade. Let's just do a 3-hour show talking about that.
2 second-round picks and a third-round pick go to Seattle. The Leafs get Giordano and Colin Blackwell, a depth forward as well. Look, I mean,
the Colin Blackwell era in Seattle's over.
It is over. Hopefully, everyone remembers where they were when it ended. Look, you can acquire all the good defensemen, all the defensive defensemen you want until you shore up your goaltending situation. It doesn't matter in Toronto, but I can totally understand why you pay that price to get Giordano. The thought being, maybe you can't shore up the goaltending, so instead you improve the defense in front of the goaltending as a compensatory move. We'll see if it ends up materializing.
We don't know for sure if Toronto's gonna acquire a goalie, as you said, Drew. But I mean, like the question becomes like, Frank Saravalli was kind of listing off we know Marc-Andre Fleury is not going there. We know that for sure. That's been reported, right? So you're talking about guys like Joonas Korpisalo, right? Like Korpisalo is a fine goaltender, but again, Mrazek was put on waivers. You got to run with Jack Campbell at this point, don't you, boys?
Oh, there's no question. When you get him back healthy, but the health has been the problem, and when he's been playing, he hasn't been playing well either. So the Maple Leafs certainly.
Well, as of late, he was good earlier in the season, but
it's been lousy
last
since
few
January
weeks.
1st.
He has not been good.
Yeah, he's been Wedgwood went for a 4th round pick apparently in 2023. So you can that's what you can learn about that one. The other trades earlier today, Travis Hamonic. I mean, did I go back in time a decade? Travis Hamonic somehow went for a 3rd round pick from Vancouver to Ottawa, and that is going to by far and away be the most inexplicable trade at this deadline.
Well, is that not kind of for salary reasons as well? Like, I don't really know, because he cleared waivers, did he not, earlier this year?
Well, why is Ottawa giving up a 3rd round pick for him?
Well, that's what I'm saying, because he cleared waivers. Someone could correct me there. I'm pretty sure, Dave, that he did clear waivers. So that one is puzzling to me, because we know Ottawa's not going anywhere. Travis Hamonic's had a great pro career, but I mean, I'm not sure how much he factors into the long-term plans there in Ottawa. So to me, I mean, is that not just moving some salary out?
Well, I understand it from Vancouver's perspective. Somebody's going to give you a 3rd round pick for Travis Hamonic.
Sure.
At this point in time, that's absolute highway robbery by Jim Rutherford and what's his name, Patrick Alvan, the new general manager in Vancouver. But why Ottawa's giving up a 3rd round pick is something that hard questions need to be asked about that.
Hamonic even have a term left, or is this his last year of his contract?
Well, why the hell are you trading for a rental then if you're Ottawa?
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm with you. I'm with you. I didn't understand that trade, but I mean, good for Travis Hamonic though. Fresh start for him.
I guess. I mean, that one doesn't make any sense. Tampa Bay gets Nick Paul from Ottawa in exchange for Matthew Joseph and a 4th round pick. Nick Paul is he's a big guy. He's going to play a depth forward role for Tampa Bay, but boy, are they reloading that depth of their team on the fly right at this trade deadline. I like the acquisition. I don't mind the return for Ottawa either. Joseph, probably a guy who wasn't going to get qualified by the Tampa Bay Lightning because of their salary cap situation. So I think this is a smart move, maybe even by both teams in this instance. But boy, Tampa Bay looks like they're going to be another beast in that Eastern Conference playoff race.
Yeah, you pick up Brandon Hagel, even though you gave up too much. You pick up Nick. I actually thought Nick Paul would fit nicely into the Jets, right? Like, he's a guy, as you mentioned, big guy, physical. He's got 11 goals this year, guys. So, I mean, he's got some talent. And you're right. I mean, Hagel, Nick Paul, we're not sure if they're going to be on the same line, but most likely, like, those guys are going to be somewhere in the bottom 6 or middle 6, whatever you want to call it. I don't know what the term is anymore. But yeah, that's a smart acquisition by Tampa Bay. And again, it just shows you, Dave, Julien Brisebois isn't afraid, to give up futures for right now. They're going for the 3-peat, right?
Yeah, they are. I mean, they are unbelievably
why wouldn't you, right? Like, you've got the horses. You know that this is your window. You've got Vasilevsky. So, I mean, if you're Tampa Bay, I mean, there's no reason not to. Your team's just as good as, most of the other teams in the East. I mean, it's just going to be tough in the sense that there's better teams. There's more better teams in the Eastern Conference than there are on the West. So it's a bit of a tougher road than it would be, for Colorado, for example, when there aren't quite as many upper echelon teams. But if you're Tampa Bay with the goaltender who's won, 2 Stanley Cups and Vezinas, you're not too afraid to kind of reload, retool, and just, it's not really retool, reload and just get more pieces. And we talked about it on yesterday's show for quite some time.
Related to the Scott Wedgwood trade to Dallas, it sounds like Arizona close to a contract extension with Karel Vejmelka. You remember him as the goaltender that stymied the Jets here in Winnipeg. Yeah, easy for me to say, but looks like he's getting a contract extension. Been very impressive for the Coyotes this year. I think 10 actually. They're going beyond what the CBA allows. So he's been impressive, a bright spot for the Coyotes, and I'm sure he'll look forward to playing in front of 3,000 people in a 5,000 seat arena as opposed to 3,000 people in a 15,000 seat arena. Let me ask you guys this: it's Jets show, Jets topics. Who gets traded from the Jets tomorrow? You guys are on the record now, or later today, even between now and the trade deadline. Who gets traded from the Winnipeg Jets?
Well, nobody's getting traded tonight.
Are you sure?
Well, I'll be up if they do, and it'll be on illegalcurve.com. But yeah. I hope
like when you and Remus ended the lockout.
Yeah, that is true.
I was way back when, where in 3:30 in the morning, you guys went live. I believe,
and that wasn't even fake live. That was real live.
Real live, yeah.
I'm pretty sure Remus was coming from the green room too.
I'm pretty sure he was he was at home, and then I got a phone call at like, what was it, 5 something in the morning, and it's like tells me that the lockout's over. I'm like, okay, now what? And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, okay, I'll put it on legalcurve.com. Next thing I know, I'm picking him up. I'm driving to the radio station. We're going live. We're breaking the news. Ezzy has no idea what's going on. He is sleeping.
Weren't you talking with Dennis as well? Dennis was covering the World Juniors, if I'm not mistaken.
Dennis was in like, I think I texted him. I think he was in like the Czech Republic maybe at the time or something like that.
Czechia.
Sorry.
It was Czech Republic back then.
I was going to say, that was grammatically correct back then. Now, maybe not so much. But yeah, no, I was texting Dennis. It was funny.
So
we ended the lockout.
Back to the question.
Yeah.
Who gets traded from the Jets tomorrow?
Nobody.
I think nobody.
In fact, not only do I think they're not going to trade anybody, I think the Jets are going to like just add 3 new pieces.
So I think your tongue is firmly in cheek, but I can't tell.
That's right there.
Okay.
I'm going to go out on a limb here and say Andrew Kopp, guys.
So you think they trade Kopp?
I don't. Yeah. If I had to guess, I would say they're going to trade Kopp. I think they're going to keep Stasny. I don't think that. I think that they think that they'll be able to potentially reload with some guys from down on the farm, whether that's a Mikey Esimont or a David Gustafson. Well, I think David Gustafson for sure, and then especially if Kopp goes, then I think you for sure bring up Gustafson, and then that would be my guess. I don't think. Look, guys, nobody's trading Brendan Dillon. They're not trading Nate Schmidt. They're not going to make the Jets. If the Jets are going to do something like big, and I could be wrong. It's just my opinion. I think they're going to do it in the summer.
I think that glass is empty, by the way, Drew.
It is now. I just finished off the last of my cider. Yes.
Yeah. So and look,
cider, Apple.
Look, I can't like unless Kevin Cheveldayoff knows that Andrew Kopp is willing to re-sign in Winnipeg this summer, then you cannot afford to retain him and miss the playoffs and not gain back. I mean, we don't know what the offer is, right? We have to hear what those offers are. I mean, if the offer is if it's a 3rd round pick for Andrew Kopp, I don't know that I would do that either. But I mean, because again, it's hard to justify a 3rd round pick, right? Like, even though this team hasn't played well, I mean, what have we talked about? Kevin Cheveldayoff has said, well, you have to reward these guys for staying in the fight or doing this. This team hasn't done that. They had one good stretch this entire season of going 9-2-2, in the first month. But since then, they haven't been a team that's deserved to, quote, be rewarded for their play. So you're not going to do that. But if the return isn't significant enough to actually merit the trade, like I said, it's also hard to justify in your room, and especially to the team from a revenue perspective. One of the things Scott Billick brought up, and it's something that I know fans don't care about, but it is still reality. There's a lot of money at stake. They're like, oh, who wants to play 2 games against Colorado? Well, I mean, first of all, if Colorado has significant injuries, that's a problem for them. And I mean, I still don't think anybody's beating them in the first round, but it's not impossible. And it's also a lot of money. So like I said, you have to hear what the offers are, and we'll hear that. You'll get some sort of indication. Guys like Darren Dreger, Frank Saravalli, he seems to be on top of most of the breaking news these days, Chris Johnston. So those are the guys you're going to hear from who are going to maybe leak that out. And, they often do, for whatever reason. They've got their own impetus for the way they do things. But
like, Dave, do those guys sleep tonight, or do they just stay up? Like, is it like when you have a big trip coming up and you just stay up all night? Like, I feel like one of those guys might just like not go to bed, or maybe they're already in bed.
Well, I would think that they're probably, I think that I don't remember trades happening super late. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you guys can remind me.
Well, didn't the Iginla trade happen in the middle of the night when everyone thought he was going to, where was he going to go? Everyone went to bed. I think I was in Mexico when this happened. No, I wasn't in Mexico. I was in Colombia when this happened. Everyone thought that he was going to Boston, right?
Sure you were, Drew.
Everyone thought that he was going to Boston, and in the middle of the night, he changed his mind and he ended up going to Pittsburgh. Is that right?
Right.
Did I get that right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so that
did not work out well, by the way.
It did not work out well, but I mean, that's the one that I think, that's.
But I'm just saying,
right.
But generally,
I wish Iggy got a cup. I mean, he's in the Hall of Fame. He had a great career, but I wish he got that cup.
Usually things quiet down, say 11 o'clock, 12 midnight, and then they pick up again, 9 a.m. or so. Of course, the coverage, I think, starts earlier and earlier every year, but there's usually
overnight, there's usually
a gap.
By the way, can you talk about it? Can you talk about a stupider? Like, why would you go? I mean, all the trades have already happened basically, and what are they going to be doing? They're going to be. It is going to be just, they call something must watch TV. That isn't watch TV, because it is just going to be. I mean, it's just going to be painful. I mean, they're going to be doing like, what are they going to be doing? They're going to be playing like Fortnite. Like, what exactly?
Ron's going to shoot Jennifer Hedger with the t-shirt cannon again.
I'm just going back to what you said, Dave. I know you want to wrap up, and we got to give away our tough duck toque here. But on the topic of Colorado, I see a lot of people in the chat talking about the Rangers and Boston. I don't know, like, if Kopp is traded, I don't know how you trade him to Colorado. Not only is Colorado in your division, but you most likely will play them in the first round.
Well, you're not going to make the first round. I mean, I don't care where you.
No, but you know what I mean, Drew. Like, I don't know how you trade Kopp to Colorado
at this point in time. Once you're deciding to trade, Andrew Kopp, you're trading him to whoever's giving you the best return, regardless of where the destination is. Because once you've made that decision, you're more or less punting on the rest of the regular season,
sure,
which is the right move, let me tell you. But you don't worry about that. Somebody's giving you a second round pick and another team's giving you a third round pick, you're taking him to the second regardless. You don't care if Andrew Kopp comes and look, you're playing the Colorado Avalanche. It ain't going to be Kopp who's going to be the difference maker in that series. It's going to be McKinnon and Landeskog and Rantanen and Cale Makar and everybody else. Yeah, Kadri. I mean, I can keep going and going and going and going. It's going to be everybody else that's going to beat you more than Andrew Kopp is at that point.
So you're saying that's a conspiracy theory on my part?
I'm saying that's a conspiracy theory on your part. Dave, if I grant you a Moose minute, will you keep it pretty short?
Absolutely not. That? Give it to me anyways.
Okay. Dave's been waiting all night for this.
Put on your antlers. It's time for the Minuk Moose Minute on the Illegal Curve Hockey Show.
Yes, the Minuk Moose Minute, because there's, of course, 2 Moose games since yesterday's morning show. The Moose were in Iowa yesterday, continuing their 7-game road trip. That was the 3rd game of the road swing. And they handily defeated the Iowa Wild on Saturday. Saturday evening, 5-2 final. Simon Lundmark, the 2019 second rounder, he opened the scoring. Moose kind of came out flying. They were out shooting them 9-1. Then Nicholas Jones, who's a really nice role player, he made it 2-0, and then eventually they just started to add, Bobby Lynch. Bobby Lynch actually is a really fast player and seems to be getting it. Has a good shot. Mikey Esimont, he's a guy who. Jacob Stoller just wrote a really good article about him in his full, what's it called? Full, I always get the name wrong.
Full press coverage.
Full press coverage. That's right. So he just wrote a really interesting feature on him. And then Cole Meyer, the alternate captain of the Moose, he made it 5-2, and that's how they would end it. And then their win streak was at 8 games, 6-0, 1-1. No dancing mooses for me. And then of course we knew that Christian Vesalainen was reassigned. He didn't play last night for the Moose in Iowa. Mikkel Burden is still not available. Leon Gavanke, the 2017 5th rounder, people were speculating, but I did some investigating, if you will, and he was banged up. So he was out due to injury, not for being held out for any interest sake. And then, of course, that leads us today. We knew that Jeff Malott got recalled this morning, so that meant he was going to get his first shot.
Timeout. Flag on the play. According to our friend Jason Bell of the Winnipeg Free Press, just tweeted this 57 seconds ago. He's hearing that the Winnipeg Jets, as we alluded to maybe earlier in the program, are very close to reacquiring Mason Appleton from the Seattle Kraken.
Should we get Jason Bell on the show right now and start doing like a Winnipeg Jet? Like that's a big move. Let's talk about it.
I mean, I think what that is, if it comes to fruition, is he's replacing Andrew Kopp. Is what I'm imagining that is. I mean, he's
not necessarily.
Well, I mean, you would probably slot him into the wing on the 3rd line. I mean, that's my
seemingly
assumption. That's makes sense. I mean, it doesn't. I don't think
I want to know how Roscoe knows this. I'm gonna have to ask Jason Bell about this.
Well, I mean, Jason tweeted it.
I'm not touching that one.
If it comes to fruition, it comes to fruition. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But I wanted to bring you the latest tweet.
Now I'm torn because I
Mason's a good guy. I like that move.
Let's put it this way. I really want to
see if it happens first.
I want to really finish my Manuk Moose minute, but now I'm like torn because I think that folks in the chat.
Hey, tied in. Appleton played for the Moose.
Exactly. But the problem is Giroux is very deceptive. He knows that I'm going to try and keep my Manuk Moose minutes short so I can go on to legalcurve.com, my true loyalty. Well, maybe not. And then I'll start working on the website. So
hey, talk about the Moose, and I'll interrupt you again if that trade doesn't become official or anything.
You're making me make a Sophie's choice. So, anyways,
Drew, stop talking. This is going to be a 2-hour post-game show if you don't let Dave go here.
Okay. Well, anyways, getting to today. So Jeff Malott is recalled. Christian Vesalainen takes his spot with David Gustafsson and Mikey Esmont on that first line, and it was just an awful game of hockey to watch. Like, it was just a complete slog. Arvid Holm was in net. Evan Cormier was in net yesterday for the Moose. And today Arvid Holm got it back. He's made 3 of the 4 starts on this road trip. And so you had, it was just boring. And the Moose spotted Iowa 2 goals fairly quickly. So it was 2-0 for Iowa. And really nothing was happening for Manitoba, nothing good at least. And then CJ Cease with, I think it was about 35 seconds left in the second period. He bangs one home, and so it halves the lead. So they go into the intermission feeling okay. And the one thing about the Moose, which Ezzy, you and I have talked about from the old Jets, was even when the Jets were down, you never felt like they were out of it. That's the way the Moose are. I thought, okay, they're down 2-0. They're not going to be out of this. Sure enough, Mikey Esmont, not a great goal from behind, basically behind the goal line, kind of a crazy angle. His 12th goal of the year. He ties the game with just under 5 minutes to go. Not all good news, though, for the Moose. 2018 fifth rounder, Declan Chisholm, he had to leave the game. He got a slew foot in the third period, so that caused him to leave. He was in some pain. He had to get helped off. That's not good news. No update. I asked for an update after the game. I didn't get one, so that's the only kind of bad news for them. And then Arvid Holm was very good in the shoot. Game went to overtime, nothing doing. Arvid Holm, excellent in the shootout. He went 3 for 3, and then Mikey Esmont, whose name you've heard me talk about quite a bit this weekend, he had a chance to win it, and he ended up being the only guy who scores in the shootout to give the Moose the win. That means a 9-game point streak. They're 7-0-1-1 so far. They're 34-17, 3-2. Their magic number to clinch, I think, is 17, and they ended up coming back to win. So good for the Moose. They're going to go off to Rockford. They're going to play Rockford, then Chicago, then back in Rockford to conclude the road trip. But, really good road trip so far, 3-0 and 0-1 for them. So they're a happy bunch, and they're feeling good. And like I said, everybody's happy for Jeff Malott. So there's a lot doing in Moose Land, and we'll see what happens tomorrow in terms of including, sorry guys, quickly, who is going to be on the Moose roster, even if it's a paper transaction, in terms of eligibility for the playoffs. Because if you want to play in the Calder playoffs, then you have to be on the Moose roster. Now, there is, and I've tried to get some clarity from the Moose on this CBA rules that come into effect as to for players who are on LTIR. So both Cole Perfetti and Christian Reichel, who are on LTIR, would they be eligible? I'm the sense I'm getting is Cole Perfetti may not be, and it may not matter anyways, but Christian Reichel could be. I think there may be some wiggle room there. So that's just the trying to figure out what the CBA is. And like I said, I've asked for some clarity in that regard.
May not matter because his injury would preclude him from playing in the playoffs. Is that what you're intimating out there?
I'm not saying or denying that, Drew.
Okay, so it sounds like Cole Perfetti is not going to be.
It just doesn't sound like he's going to be back anytime soon, unfortunately.
There you go. Okay, another trade coming through right now. Jeremy Lauzon, formerly of the Seattle Kraken, heading to Nashville for a second-round pick. Lauzon is an RF. Lauzon is an RFA, pending RFA after the season, so he'll be in Nashville for the.
Seattle is a seller. Like what we were talking about yesterday. This idea of like, are you a seller or a buyer? Seattle is selling hard.
Oh my God!
They
are. Seattle have a team after.
And why wouldn't you? Right? Like they weren't built to be good this year, so you might as well sell these guys.
Somebody asked, what does Mason Appleton have on his contract? He's got $900,000 this year, and he's an RFA at season's end, an arbitration eligible RFA, but he would not be in line for a significant raise or anything like that. So what does he have in terms of points this year? He's got 6 goals, 11 assists, 17 points this year for the Kraken.
I imagine that's going to be for what, a third or fourth rounder?
Yeah, you would I mean, I don't know. We'll find out what the return will be at that. You know, you would think so. Wouldn't think that the Jets would do much more than that. I mean, I wouldn't think it would be a second rounder or something. That would not be a very good return on investment.
Well, I mean, hold on, wait, sorry, Drew, just explain that to me. What did you just say? You think you don't think a second rounder would be good for Mason Appleton?
No, I think that'd be too high.
I don't agree. I think yeah, because he's a known commodity. He's a known commodity to your organization. You like what he brings. Could he play up in the lineup? I've talked to scouts who really like Mason Appleton, and like I said, you know, he didn't have the pedigree. Remember, he's a 6th round pick from 2015.
Yeah.
He worked when he started with the Manitoba Moose. I'm not going back in and doing a Moose minute, but when he started with the Manitoba Moose, he was on the 4th line. He worked his way up to the 1st line, rookie of the year in the AHL. He's a hard worker, and he brings size, speed. I think that he's a player that you need, and like a draft pick's great. And don't get me wrong, the Jets need to restock the cupboard, especially at forward. But I mean, Mason Appleton's a guy you can in theory have for some time in this organization.
Jets also don't have a 2nd round pick though.
No, I understand. They have a 2nd round pick in 2023. They just don't have one for this year.
True.
So I mean, again, if you're Seattle,
no, they don't have one in 2023 either.
Maybe
2024.
Yeah, 24.
2025 as well. They could trade that one. 2026.
I would say a second.
You're right, Dave. I mean, look at we're kind of getting off point here. I mean, if the Jets trade a 2nd round pick in the future, so that would be 2024. I mean, I wouldn't have a problem with that. Mason Appleton's a great player. Let's get back to that. Mason Appleton is a very valuable player that you can plug into your 3rd line. You know, he's got some physicality, and he's got a scoring touch. So and Dave said, I believe you said known commodity, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I don't if it turns out to be a 20, I forgot that the Jets don't have their 2nd round for the next couple of years. So thanks whoever mentioned that. So I wouldn't have a problem with that. And could it be a replacement for Kopp, Dave? Maybe, but that's just speculation.
Well, I mean, like Matt Appleton's not the same defensive type of player as Andrew Kopp. So I mean, like I said, if you're asking me who the Jets are going to use as a replacement for Andrew Kopp, it would be David Gustafsson. But I mean, here's a crazy notion: Adam Lowry, Mason Appleton, David Gustafsson. I mean, that's not a bad 3rd line.
Well, that's why I think he's on your 3rd line. I think he's going to be. I think they're acquiring him to. I think they're acquiring Mason Appleton if it comes to fruition. And for those of you just joining us as we go long with an extended edition of the Illegal Curve.
Drew, I got bad news for you. I just sent out a tweet. We're going to invite Jason Bell. We're going to talk to Jay about this thing.
And my point is that, you know, if this comes to fruition, Mason Appleton would just sort of, you know, like you said, known commodity, he would just slot in the Jets' 3rd line, you know, going forward for the rest of this season, assuming nothing happens to the top 6, and then going forward for years to come, because they know him, they control him, they control his contractual rights. He's an RFA at season's end. He's not going to cost you a lot. So, you know, if you can get a Mason Appleton under contract for what are we talking about? $1.5 million next year? Probably somewhere around there. I mean, I don't think it's much more than that based on the numbers he's put up this year in Seattle.
Yeah, he hasn't had a great season in Seattle, but I think it's a tough adjustment. So I just think, like, I mean, again, let's go to the
who has though, right, Dave? Like,
well, that's what I mean. You know, so I mean, again, like I said, I don't know that look. We don't even know what the market is for Appleton, right? We don't know. I'm not throwing out seconds. I'm just saying that to get a player that you know that fits in your organization well, was well liked by the organization, and is a hard worker like Appleton, I just think that. Futures are hard, right? Futures are hard. I'm not saying, and again, I don't see that as a reward for a team that hasn't achieved the goals it was expected to achieve. But I'm just telling you that I just think, like, here's an opportunity to get a piece that you don't really have. I'm sorry, Austin Baganski, he's not your 3rd line winger. Like Mason Appleton could be. And Mason Appleton, if given a role, maybe needs to, you want to slot someone in to the 2nd line, you need to replace someone. He's probably a guy, or Harkins. Like you said, you've got the ability to be a hybrid. And I just think, like, look, I'm not, again, like I said, I'm not trying to, let's put it this way. I think what it comes down to is you're not blocking someone's position. Nobody is saying, oh, well, by reacquiring Mason Appleton, prospect X is going to take you're taking his spot. Like oftentimes we see that, right? Like oftentimes when the Jets make an acquisition,
like Mason Appleton, for example, is not preventing Cole Perfetti from being in the top 6.
That's the whole point. Like you're not doing that. So I mean, maybe Nathan Smith, the Minnesota State Mavericks, one of the top scorers in the NCAA,
Olympian
for Team USA. I mean, in theory, he could maybe be that guy, but like, I mean, he's, but I don't know that he is. Whereas that Appleton could be that, and I mean, who knows? Maybe
gives you options beyond this year.
And more importantly, Drew, you also don't know what kind of conversations Cheveldayoff is having with Kopp. I mean, maybe he says, "Hey, look, Andrew Kopp, you, Adam Lowry, Mason Appleton. What is that? What do you call those guys?
Third line."
Well, my point, look, I think the big question that I'm waiting on is, again, if this happens, and there's nothing confirmed, Jason Bell reporting that it sounds like it's close. If it happens, what's the return? Because if to me, third round pick is probably your max return for Mason Appleton, maybe third and another lower pick, but you can't go higher than that.
Could be a player, right? But
could be a player.
It
would be somebody from.
My bet would be, again, I would say probably a third or fourth rounder.
That would be where I would be at, and maybe it's 2 of those, but it's not. It shouldn't be much more than that, I don't think.
And again, let's go through the list, right? I mean, the Jets have hit. Mason Appleton himself is a 6th rounder, so you shouldn't be too dismissive. Connor Hellebuyck is a 5th rounder, so I mean, you can achieve success in late rounds. I'm just saying that think about it like this, right? We're talking about guys like Jansen Harkins. He was a 2015 draft pick.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're talking about guys who are in the 2022, 23, 24. When are you talking about the impact these guys are having? I mean, you're not talking about them until 2028.
No,
so, I mean,
I don't have a problem. Oh, here, official now. Elliot Friedman, Mason Appleton back to Winnipeg from Seattle in exchange for a mid-round pick. Not yet sure what the mid-round pick is going to be.
And this is when I stop caring about the Illegal Curve Hockey Show and go right into the illegalcurve.com website.
Okay, so Dave's going to update the website on that. We will.
I love a live breaking trade.
Well, usually it happens on Saturday.
My mouth is watering.
On Saturday mornings, but it's happening on a Sunday night instead.
Let's keep going.
Well, I mean, it's the question is, what is if it's a mid-round pick? I don't see any downside to it. It's a guy you have under
mid-round means exactly what we were talking about: 3rd or 4th rounder,
3rd, 4th, 5th, something like that.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, if it's
5th would be a late rounder, but
if you're Seattle, aren't you better off holding on to Mason Appleton and keeping his contractual rights? What are you gaining?
Does Seattle have enough players to have a game tomorrow night? Like, honestly, but yeah, I mean,
like what's
okay,
the purpose
it goes
of
back to
Seattle's perspective.
Well, it goes back to the expansion draft. I still don't know their strategy, what their strategy was in aside from having a lot of salary cap room, and you can even take that further and question the contract extensions and the contracts that they signed. Absolutely. Because if you're right, so like I don't really know what is going on there. You can make the argument that they're trading too many players.
Well, look, Mason Appleton is an NHL player. That's been established. It's not like there's any sort of real question about that. Is he?
He's relatively young too.
Is he the world's most effective NHL player? No, but he's perfectly fine at the role that he's, playing on a 3rd line, on a 4th line, whatever role that is, he can play it. If you're trading that, inexpensive, you hold his contractual rights if you qualify him this summer, young, still has upside. If you're trading that for a 3rd round pick or a 4th round pick, what are the odds of a 3rd or a 4th round pick ever succeeding in the NHL? They're very low. You're trading a known asset for a question mark. And I just don't.
Has Seattle drafted Shane Wright yet?
Like Mason Appleton is a guy that the Kraken should not build around, but he's a guy that they should be able to use effectively as they build out their team and as they build out their roster for the next number of years. He's not a veteran, on the last year of his NHL career. He's a young guy.
Mark Giordano, right?
Yeah, Mark Giordano, exactly. I mean, he's still got he should still have many NHL seasons ahead of him. And yet you're trading him for what I'll describe as without knowing the exact round pick that it's coming back.
It doesn't even matter though, right? Like we know it's a mid-round pick.
Right. So it's a
doesn't
mid-late
matter.
draft pick. I just don't understand the mindset about it at all. I mean,
I think the affordability for me is the big sticking point, if you want to say that, because like you said, he's not going to get a huge raise. So a player like that in this day and age, when you have so many teams up against the salary cap, like put it this way, Drew, when Chevy was talking to Ron Francis, he was probably more than happy. Like he was probably ecstatic to make that trade.
Yeah. I mean, I just don't I mean, Ron Francis, by the way, was a lousy general manager when he was with Carolina. If you go back and look at his track record in Carolina, it was pretty lousy, and nothing he's done in his tenure as the general manager of the Seattle Kraken has changed my mind about him as a general manager. He doesn't seem to understand how to.
Well, what's the direction? That's the big. Like, where's this team going here? Obviously, they're stockpiling draft picks.
Okay,
but where are they?
Again, Frank Saravelli reporting this. Sounds like the Jets have some moving parts tonight or tomorrow, ? Jason Bell reporting the Jets are on the verge of reacquiring Mason Appleton from the Kraken. We know that Elliot Friedman has already said that's going to happen. Frank has been told that the Jets have 2 second-round picks tabled for Andrew Kopp, but are looking for a first. So what that means is the Jets have an offer on the table of 2 second-round picks for Andrew Kopp, but the Jets are not pulling the trigger on that yet, as they're hoping to get a first-round pick in exchange for Andrew Kopp.
Do we know if those second-rounders are in the same year?
We don't know anything about the details of those second-rounders.
But regardless, they obviously want the first. Chevy wants the first-rounder. Okay.
Well, I mean, at this point,
why wouldn't you?
Why are you rushing to make that deal right now? You can wait.
Well, the market has been set, right? Like whether you want to look at Brandon Hagel or you want to look at, other moves that have been made. I mean, a first rounder for a player of Andrew Kopp's quality is all Chevy's going to take.
Especially because there's not a lot of those guys left. Most of those guys have already been traded. So, in the game of musical chairs or musical trades, as the case may be, you don't want to necessarily be left without a dance partner. And so that's why Chevy's holding on to Kopp at this point, saying, look, there's nobody else at his ilk, really, unless something comes out of left field. Everybody else has made their moves. Tampa Bay's made their moves. Florida's made their moves with Giroux. Not that Andrew Kopp and Claude Giroux are the same player, don't get me wrong. But there's not a lot left for some of these teams to pivot to if they don't like the price.
Is it the Rangers? That's what I really want to know, because that it would make a lot, because the Rangers have been pretty quiet lately.
The Rangers, and they've been scouting the Jets nonstop. They've had a Rangers scout, at basically every game for the last little while. I'm trying to refresh Twitter to see what else is going on.
Drew, it's a good thing that Dave M's going to be up till 3 a.m, because Kopp might be traded at the stroke of midnight.
Well, I mean, the stroke of midnight is not quite rapidly approaching, but it's getting closer than we ever expected on this Sunday evening special edition of the Illegal Curve post-game show that somehow has morphed into an Illegal Curve trade deadline show. We say good evening to everybody that's joining us. Maybe we're here for the post game, and now you've left and you've come back with the news about the Mason Appleton reacquisition. Whatever it is, nice to see you all again. Drew Mindell, Dave Manouk, Ezra Ginsburg with you on this Sunday night, talking about the Winnipeg Jets victorious, and which seems like it was hours ago at this point. Now we're into the trade deadline mode with the Jets having, rumor, not necessarily allegedly, but all but confirmed that the Jets have reacquired Mason Appleton from the Seattle Kraken. We are waiting to see what the official return on the trade is for Mason Appleton. Elliot Friedman of Sportsnet reporting it's a mid-round pick, but we will see officially when that comes through. Clearly, the trade call has not happened as of yet. We'll see if it happens while we're still on here. But it's a very interesting move for the Winnipeg Jets. I mean, Kevin Cheveldayoff did say that he might be both a buyer and a seller. And if you combine the acquisition of Mason Appleton with the comments from Frank Saravelli that the Jets have 2 second-round picks on the table for Andrew Kopp, well, that's something to be considered, that the Jets might be both buying and selling as the trade deadline rapidly approaches here tomorrow afternoon, I believe at 2:00 Central Time. depending on who the trade is, that where Andrew Kopp gets traded, there might be some argument that you might be better off with 2 second-round picks if they're in the same year than 1 first-round pick. Now, we don't know the years. We don't know any of the details. But if they happen to be in the same year and
that's why I asked you that, right?
Right, because you're getting more kicks at the can.
Exactly.
The Jets are a team without a second-round pick, as we've talked about for this coming season and for next year. So maybe the Jets are looking at using Andrew Kopp as a way to recoup those missing second-round picks in 22 and 23, or to get 2 second-round picks in 22 or 2 second-round picks in 23. I mean, it's a lot of moving pieces right now on this Sunday night as it pertains to the Winnipeg Jets, as it pertains to the trade deadline. Of course, lots going on so far, and we'll bring you the latest either here.
All right, illegalcurve.com is up. Instagram is
go.
up. Facebook is up. We got all the social
I just saw the
media
article
covered.
about Mason Appleton on legalcurve.com. That's how good Dave is. He does Moose Minutes. He's doing the post-game show. He's uploading content on the website.
Whew, that was quick. But you know what? Look, I mean, I really am. I have to say I am in favor of this move. I mean, not because I enjoyed interviewing Mason Appleton, because I did, but I just think it's a move that makes a lot of sense. I think he was a well-liked person in the organization. That's not why you would reacquire him, but I think he fit a need. He fit an organizational need, and he doesn't block what like when you acquired Brendan Dillon last year, right? When you acquired, well, pretty much Brendan Dillon actually is the only one who created a logjam. He created a block for Ville Heinola, created a block for Dylan Sandberg, and that that's the logjam that the Jets have to deal with. Mason Appleton doesn't do that. He really doesn't. And like I said, he'll seamlessly fit into that third line for the Jets. So I think it's a home run for Winnipeg. Especially for a mid-round pick. Yeah. Like I said, if this is like a fourth or a fifth, then it's a no-brainer. Then it's a home run. Because
then you have to wonder what the hell Ron Francis is doing, which is what I talked about before.
No, then you have to wonder why you're not trading with Ron Francis more often.
Maybe it's a very fair point as well there, Dave.
Let's get Jaden Schwartz in here.
Ezzy, Tough Duck hardest hitting comment. Give us some of that while we're continuing on waiting to see the return on Mason Appleton from the Seattle Kraken.
Yeah, I completely forgot that we didn't do that yet. We're going to give it to Ian.
Here we go. Stop. 4th round pick in 2023, according to Darren Dreger.
I mean, that's nothing.
So that's nothing. I mean,
I was the one that said 3rd or 4th rounder as soon as you mentioned that.
So let me reiterate what Darren Dreger is adding to the conversation here. So Dreger confirms that it is a 4th round pick in 2023 going from the Winnipeg Jets to the Seattle Kraken for Mason Appleton.
That's a steal.
That is, look, you're trading a nothing draft pick, and I don't mean nothing in the sense of nothing. I mean nothing in the sense that it could. Who knows what it's going to turn out to be? It's a coin flip. You're trading a coin flip at best for a established NHL player who you now will control the rights of for at least another few years. I would, and then how many years? Let me see what Appleton is. How many years away from? So he's 2 years away.
Probably 2, yeah.
2 years away from free agency. So the Jets can sign him this offseason to a 2-year deal if they want to walk him into free agency. And you get a guy.
And I bet they do.
Yeah, they probably sign him to a 2-year deal. Maybe they sign him to a 1-year deal, and they still have another year, and they can kick the can down the road to really determine what his value is and what his worth is on a long-term deal. But this is a guy who is Mason Appleton is just turned 26. He's a January birthday. So he's 26 years old, and you're getting him for a 4th round pick. This is a no-brainer as of no-brainers. In fact, I'm surprised that other teams aren't stepping up to offer more to add to your depth there than what the Jets are willing to pay a 4th round pick. I mean, if you're one of those other teams, if you're, I don't know, let's say a Los Angeles Kings, for example. You've watched Mason Appleton. You've seen him this year as you play the Kraken. The Kings are an unexpected team who are in the playoffs. Isn't he worth bolstering your depth, your forward group? It's not like you have a forward group to write home about. Look, this is a very good move by Kevin Shoveldayoff. Even if it turns out to be, even if Mason Appleton is the exact same player that the Jets think he is from last year, where they lost him in the expansion draft, to get that kind of guy for a 4th round pick, no brainer, no question about it whatsoever. And Mason Appleton reacquired by the Winnipeg Jets in exchange for a 2023 fourth round selection. Ezzy, tough duck.
Yeah, we're going to give it to, thank you for taking us back to that Ian Petrie, or Petrie. I apologize if I pronounced the name wrong, but it was back at, you got it up there. It was a while ago now. I hope Ian is still with us here, but if he's not, hopefully somebody gets it to him. But lots of complaints about 55, obviously talking about Scheifele, but having best season, but almost a point a game, playing with a winger that has 10 goals. Wheeler, he's talking about there. He's not had a defensive player. Not sure why people are obsessed with that. I just like the comment because Scheifele obviously was, had a good game tonight. And I think we need to kind of drop that at this point, that narrative. So, I mean, it's not false, but I just like the comment. So we're going to give Ian the tough duck, hardest hitting comment. Send me an email, ezra@illegalcurve.com, or slide into my DMs.
There you go. Congratulations, Ian, the winner of tonight's Tough Duck hardest hitting comment, brought to you by our friends at Tough Duck. I want to say a big thank you to all of our sponsors: Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club, Linden Market Dental Center, Zappia Group Realty, Betway, Bernstein's Deli, Tough Duck, Boston Pizza, Seagram's. I could use a drink. Rollies Transfer and Grid Park support these fine businesses because of their continued support of Illegal Curve Hockey. Dave, last word tonight goes to you regarding the upcoming trade deadline coming up tomorrow. We had some moves today. Everything available on illegalcurve.com.
Well, let's go through the fourth round picks the Jets have drafted since 2011. Zach Ewan.
Yeah.
Andrew Kopp, Jan Kosteluk. And so Andrew Kopp, coincidentally, that's an interesting that Nelson Noje, still with the organization, playing for the Moose. Michael Spacek is back in Europe. Jacob Cederholm, out of hockey. Santeri Virtanen, he's still playing in Liga. Henry Nikkanen, I actually like Henry Nikkanen, but he's a 2019 fourth rounder. He's the one who
he's had injury problems.
He had injury problems, and that's the reason why he fell. He was supposed to be a late first rounder, fell to the Jets at the fourth round. He had a bit of a decent season a couple years ago, but he has fallen off. He's been traded a couple times in Liga, or switched teams, I should say. So just to point out that you're giving up an unknown for, I mean, the Jets in all of the years of drafting, now they haven't always had fourth round picks. They had one hit, which was coincidentally Andrew Kopp. But other than that, not one of them. And Nelson Doge, I mean, he's had longevity in the organization. That's good. But, I mean, like I said, Appleton, 6th round pick in 2015, but he is a known quantity. He is well-liked, and he is well-respected for what he brings. And, I saw one of the comments in the chat. I don't remember who said it, but I think it's true. I think they are right. The Jets are the only team that would value him. Well, I mean, what he brings.
I don't know about that.
Well, I'm just saying.
I might value him more.
I think that's what he was.
But I think there's more than a few teams that would like to have him on their team.
Yeah, no, I agree. As I think it's just more that Winnipeg would value him a little bit more.
Yeah, I know what you're
saying. And I agree. I just think that this is an opportunity to bring someone back into the fold who liked being in Winnipeg, liked the organization, and so and most importantly, this will be my final point. Does not block a prospect from advancement. So. It's interesting news, and like I said,
smart move.
Stay tuned to illegalcurve.com. We've already got that news courtesy of Jason Bell. We've also got Elliot Friedman's additional reporting on it, as well as Darren Dreger's, and we'll have everything that happens between now. I mean, we may have to do an impromptu show at some point tomorrow, boys. We'll see about that, but right now, lots of news. Illegalcurve.com.
There you go, illegalcurve.com, at illegalcurve on Twitter. We'll also have news there. And while you're at it, follow our Instagram, also at illegalcurve, same with Facebook as well. Incredibly busy show. Thanks for everybody for sticking with us as we went a little bit longer than we normally do. We'll be back maybe tomorrow, depending on what happens during the day. We'll keep you abreast of that. We'll be back Tuesday night for sure. At least two of the three of us will be back Tuesday night. When the Jets and the Vegas Golden Knights do action, post-game show right around 9:45 on Tuesday night. In the meantime, illegalcurve.com, that's your home, at illegalcurve, on Twitter, at illegalcurve on Instagram, at illegalcurve on Facebook. Thanks for everybody. Smash the like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel, subscribe to the podcast, leave us some feedback, let us know what you like, what you didn't like about the program. For Dave Manouk, for Ezra Ginsburg, I'm your host, Drew Mindell. It's been a busy one. This has been the Illegal Curve postgame show.